What's up, everybody? I am back with a new movie review. I just covered my thoughts on the first Underworld film. Now I'll be covering Underworld Evolution, which picks up right after what happened in the previous film. Before I continue, please like and subscribe, share this with your friends, leave a comment below, let me know what you guys think of the Underworld franchise as a whole. Yeah, so of course, once again, it's directed by Len Weissman, screenplay and story by him, Danny McBride, and Kevin Gavreau. Kate Beckinsale and Scott Speedman reprises their role as Celine and Michael Corbin. We also get Tony Curran as Marcus Corvinus. We get Derek Jacobi as Alexander Corvinus slash Lorenz Miracle. Stephen McIntosh as Andreas Tennis. For a brief period, we get Shane Broley and Bill Nighy as Craven and Victor, as well as Zita Gurag as Amelia. Brian Steele as William Corvinus. So, they're right now, like, Celine and Michael are on the run, essentially, after taking out Victor, an elder, and pretty much creating a first-time vampire werewolf hybrid, a werepire, an abomination by all standards of both clans. So they're on the run, but they want to also, take down Craven, who pretty much kind of, still that that loose thread that needs to be taken care of. However, unbeknownst to anybody else, Marcus has waken up after the blood from that scientist in the previous film spilled into his tomb, awakening him, and all of that guy's knowledge of what transpired has brought into his attention. So once he wakes up, kills Craven and his men. He knew, like, of course, Craven, being the ultimate betrayer, tries to plead, I will serve you. So it's like, oh, blah blah blah, and I love the line where it's like, your betrayal will know no bounds. And it's like, I ain't stunned. Like, no, absolutely not. And this is one of the cases where there's a smart villain here, where it's like, I am not going to have you tag along behind me to eventually stab me in the back at your earliest convenience. Hell no. Cut us off his head and proceeds to use, before burning down the vampire HQ, utilizes their tech, after drinking the blood of the scientists and Craven. He familiarizes himself on how to use, computers. So once Celine and Michael break into one of the safe houses of belonging to the vampires, it immediately alerts, whoever is going inside. So they know they can't stay too long, but they don't realize Michael is awake and he's coming after them. So, not Michael, Marcus. They got like an hour before sunlight comes up. So, Celine hands Michael a blood bag. Like, you need to feed, you need to keep your strength up, and it's best we go with the medical supply blood bags, because you do not want to allow your hunger to take over, because you will want to attack the nearest innocent person that might cross your path. You don't want that on your conscience, so you better stick with these. Even though he still trying to get used to not only being in this world, but the fact that he's like a unique species in this world filled with vampires and werewolves. But he has not, like, he can't bring us up to actually like just spend the rest of his life consuming blood, which is a necessity. So he still kind of thinks of himself as still human. So he goes to a nearby, like, not like a diner, but it's kind of like a, a neighborhood, like, bar stop kind of thing. And I watched this movie a lot of times growing up, and the plate of food that he got looks so good, and I always want, like, it's like just potatoes and some, like, whatever meat or whatever. It looks very well prepared, and I don't know. It's like when you watch certain foods, certain movies and TV shows with like a particular food that a character is eating. It looks so tantalizing. You just want that. That's how I look at it. It's like, man. In fact, I want to look up and see, like, what exactly was the guy eating. Sorry, I just had to do that. I should have done this before I started. I'm just obsessed right now because now we got like tech that we didn't have it back then. What food was Michael? It was a tavern, by the way. Ah, come on! Give me no exact. It was giving the exact food. It just says human food. Okay, here we go. A plate of potatoes. God no, he just says potatoes. And it's like, I know there's gotta be like a meat, because the way that he uses the knife and fork is clearly, cut into more than just the potatoes. But whatever. I just had to know, because it's always, curious. Because literally just, clearly there was potatoes there, but it's like, it had to be like chicken or something, like whatever. But anyway, he tries to consume regular human food, but because of his new physiology, just like a vampire, they can't eat anything like normal human food. Now it's completely different with werewolves because werewolves by and large eat meat, but they can pretty much eat anything they want. But generally speaking, they need meat. So they don't run into that kind of situation. But because of the vampire, they just need blood. They can't feed on anything else. Typically speaking, they can't. They probably try, but they can't really, because their body is essentially dead. So that's probably explains why their body would reject normal human food, because their organs are not living organs anymore. uh, they can only sustain themselves via blood that kind of gets the body moving like normally. Uh, so there's no typical digestion. Anyway, uh, but of course, the coincidental news reports points out that for some reason Michael is some kind of fugitive, and the tavern has a couple of cops inside who spots that and tries to arrest him. His hunger, starts taking over, and darn near, kills one of them to consume his blood. Of course, Celine shows up in time to fend off the cops, but also Marcus shows up, who is going after that medallion that she has. But he, despite her trying to tell him about the whole thing with Craven and his ill-begotten gains, Marcus ain't caring about that. It's like, I already took care of that guy. Victor made a mistake of keeping you around after he killed off your wretched family. I want to finish the job. I'm gonna take what I need and take care of this abomination while we're at it, and wipe the slate clean completely from what Victor's ill-begotten gains have gotten him. But they fended him off while escaping the sunlight. And then they bang. And then the next night, they decide, okay, we need some information. Why was he so gung-ho about getting this medallion? So Celine tracks down a vampire who she exiled long ago because he was a vampire historian for the clan. He explains that Victor is not like the first vampire as we were led to believe. It was Marcus. He ends up turning Victor at the end of his life because he was like a warlord and he's still trying to cling to life. He wanted immortality. So Marcus makes a deal with Victor that he will turn him and his army into immortal vampires in exchange of helping him get his brother who's on like a wild rampage, because we see like a opening in the film of 1202 where Marcus's twin brother William, who's like the original werewolf, went on a rampage, slaughtered a bunch of people, and most who didn't die immediately, they immediately started changing into werewolves, which the vampire elders and their vampire soldiers start dispatching, and then eventually capture William to be in prison because Marcus tricked Victor into thinking that if him or William would have died, the rest, of who they bred from their, coming from directly from them, will all immediately die. Now, of course, don't know why Victor Victor made a deal, which he had the honor not to kill William. So he kind of pivoted and then eventually turned any straggling werewolves into essentially slaves. This part always kind of confused me because early in the movie, considering that Marcus is supposed to be like the most powerful one, sure, like Victor is powerful too, but and Amelia, which by the way, I didn't even bring it up in the previous review of the first Underworld film. Amelia gets, I understand she was ambushed, but how being a elder that she gets like so easily dispatched by werewolves. It's not like, I understand if it was like something like William or Lucian being the most powerful werewolves, but anybody else, being an elder, she can easily like eradicate just as easily as somebody like Victor. That part is always kind of confused me. But also that Marcus being a powerful vampire, the first one, he should not be afraid of any of those other vampires that he's the one who turned. Sure, they kind of got him, by the short hairs, considering that it was more of them than they are him. But as so maybe somebody would get off of a lucky hit off of him. So he didn't want to chance it. But the fact that he allowed Victor to talk to him in any kind of way is like, dude, you forget who you talking to. I'm the one that turned you. Marcus calls Victor his lord, and it's like, dude, you're way older than him. You're powerful. Sure, he was like a warlord in his human time, but it's just like Victor's the one who's forgetting his place. It's that part always kind of weird in my brain. It's like that dynamic, like, the way he kind of turning Marcus into like a little bitch. It's kind of weird. Anyway, Tannis explains the purpose of the medallion and its origin, considering that Celine's father was the one who created this tomb, where it's supposedly meant to imprison William, who was because the earliest werewolves were more savage and could not control their transformation. It wouldn't be until years later when werewolves evolved to the point where they can actually control their transformations. So Marcus is looking for the tomb where only Celine's family would have known the location. Her, despite her repress of her memories, the memories are still deep within the recesses of her blood, and that's why he's going so far as trying to track them down. And we turn to find out that how the werewolves in the previous film got so well armed to take down vampires, which they shouldn't have had that kind of tech or resources. It turns out that Tannis was the one who was supplying them, because he's pretty much like a arms dealer in a sense, So, in exchange for not killing him, he arranged for them to meet with the forefather of everybody, who is Alexander Corvinus, who birthed the three sons, two of which were responsible of creating vampires and the werewolves. Not too long after Celine and Michael leave, Marcus shows up and drinks Tannis' blood to get information, drinks him dry, killing him to go after Celine and Michael. Hey, Natalia. Celine and Michael meet Alexander, who is also, has great resources because he's an immortal. He has spent his entire life just pretty much cleaning up after the messes left by his sons. But the fact that he could not, as he him and Selena kind of going back and forth, he explains to her that, despite the monsters 2 of my 3 sons turned into, I could not bring myself to take the lives of my sons. They're still my sons despite who they turned into. Because like any parent in that position would not really, could not, fathom doing that. But then of course, like Marcus shows up, kill a bunch of the soldiers on the boat, which is Alexander's headquarters, constantly on the move. Selene and Marcus strategically took Michael off the board quickly before he actually get a chance to actually react, because he poses like a true challenge. He impales Michael, seemingly killing him, while drinking the blood of Selene, getting her memories to track down the location where the tomb of his brother is, which is coincidentally at the same castle that used to be ruled by Victor all those years ago. So, after morally wounding his father, after being so angry at the fact that he didn't, after all this time, try to help his brother. So he takes the other part of the key that combines with the medallion to form the mechanism to unlock the tomb. Selene is encouraged by Alexander to drink his immortal blood, so that way it increases her vampiric capabilities, but also we find out towards the end of the film she becomes immune to sunlight, being like one of the most powerful vampires so far. And so with the remaining soldiers that's still alive, taking Michael's body, they take the helicopter ride to the castle in order to find Marcus and kill both him and but just leave the tomb alone where it is, so that way will never be like a threat, but more than likely take him out somehow too. But he already released William, and these two Selene traps Marcus temporarily behind a stone wall, while her and the rest of the troops tries to take out William, which proves ineffective because William ends up killing maiming and turning the last bit of soldiers into the more savage lichens. And of course, Selene is holding her own long enough until Michael wakes up fully transformed, because it's a new hybrid, so it's, he can't be killed by conventional ways. It would probably take a lot. So he is taking on William while Marcus pulls down on the helicopter and causes it to crash, and he goes after Selene, which, by the way, he's kind of astonished how she kind of hold her own against him. Michael rips off the head of William, because just because he's like a first werewolf, never have to encounter a werewolf hybrid vampire, a werepire before. And it's kind of a shame we don't get to see, because he's supposed to be twin brothers. We never actually get to see what William looked like as like his regular self. Mostly because early werewolves in this film couldn't transform back to their human forms because they're more savage. And then Selene pushes Marcus into the rotating blades of the helicopter, obliterating him. And the movie ends with, like I said, Selene discovering that she is more powerful and is immune to the destruction of sunlight. And that was Underworld Evolution. Like I said, this is fun and enjoyable film, a great sequel to the previous film. But the next two films, not much of a fan of, personally. But if you are, that's great. You can let me know in the comments below what you like about them. But in any case, I will see you guys tomorrow with more content down the line. But if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Share this with your friends. And I will see you all later. Peace.